Hello and welcome to our next session on reactions to Mercutio's death. So we're going to be looking at the direct moments following Mercutio's death and how Romeo responds to this, okay, and his attitude and what happens to him as a character. So, after Mercutio is stabbed, Benvolio takes Mercutio off stage, okay? So he goes off stage. We don't know he's died just yet, okay? Romeo is left alone, and Romeo says the following. This gentleman, the prince is near Ali. I keep saying Ali, ally. Sorry. Ali's like a alleyway, but I mean ally. He's basically referring to Mercutio as the prince's friend or trusty assistant or friend. Okay, my very friend have got his mortal hurt in my behalf. So he's saying he's been mortally hurt on his sort of behalf. So on Romeo's sort of reluctancy to fight, Mercutio fought for him. My reputation stained with Tybalt's slander. Okay, so Romeo's annoyed because Tybalt is bad mouthing him. Tybalt, that an hour has been my kinsman. So they've only been married. He's been married to Juliet for an hour. So Tybalt has been his family member for only an hour. And then he says, "Oh, sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valour's steel." Okay, so this quote is really good at understanding Romeo's demeanour as a character, how he presents himself, and he's saying that his lovely Juliet, look at the exclamation of the "oh," showing that he loves her, it's passionate. "Oh, sweet Juliet," calls her sweet, showing she's lovely. But he says her beauty has made me effeminate. So he believes that her beauty and Juliet has made him more feminine because he doesn't want to fight. She's softened him. She's made him weaker because he won't fight because he wants to protect her instead. Okay, so that's the impact that falling in love with Juliet has had on him. It says, "And in my temper softened valour's steel." So he's saying she's weakened his bravery. Okay, this idea of valour steel, so steel, the sword, it's been softened, it's no longer sharp, it's no longer fierce. He's become weakened by this all. Okay, indicates that he's quite a romantic, once again, Romeo. It's so impacted by Juliet's love that he doesn't want to fight anymore. Okay, so that's what that quote is telling us. Then what happens is Benvolio re-enters the stage and says, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio is dead. That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth." Okay, so again we've got another exclamation. "Oh," in this instance, not showing love, it's showing distress. He's crying out, "Oh, Romeo." Okay, desperation perhaps. But look at the language used by Benvolio to refer to Mercutio. Brave and gallant, okay? Showing that Mercutio was a good man, a brave fighter, okay? Shows Benvolio had a lot of respect for Mercutio. I mean, this idea that his spirit have aspired the clouds, so he's heading up to heaven, his spirit's heading to heaven. And you can tell that Benvolio didn't think Mercutio deserved to die, because he said too untimely. Okay, so he should have had longer on the earth. He died too soon than he should have done. Okay, which all adds to the impact of Mercutio's death. What we need to remember is Mercutio is this fun, quite excitable party goer of a character, and for that character to be killed off has quite a big impact. So Shakespeare's done this deliberately to cause the most impact. Okay, he's the only ones that isn't involved in the feud between the two families. He's quite often an audience favourite because he's fun, he plays with words, makes people laugh. So to kill him off has the greatest impact at this moment in time, okay, and spirals the events forward, as we now see with Romeo's reaction. Because Romeo's first comment is, "This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe, others must end." So this idea of this day's black fate on more days doth depend, if you look at this box over here, what it's doing is it's saying today's dark fate will determine the future. So Romeo is saying that Mercutio's death will have impacted on what happens next. Okay, so it all links this idea of fate and destiny. Okay, that is caused this black fate. So black being referred to as a sort of negative day, a bad day that's crept in. Okay, like death has crept in. But it's just the start of it all. There's going to be more of this. And then he says, "This but begins the woe, others must end." Okay, so Romeo is stating but this is the beginning of the sorrow, and there's more to come. There's going to be a lot more woe. So it's sort of indicating, it's foreshadowing, it's telling the audience there is more devastation on the way, which we know pretty quickly follows. So then this is the great bit, okay? So Tybalt re-enters, and Romeo, who a minute ago told us he'd been softened by Juliet and that he wouldn't fight, has a bit of a turnaround of character, okay? Does a bit of a 180. He says, again in triumph for Mercutio slain, away to heaven respected lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, take the villain back again, that late thou givest me. For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I, or both, must go with him. Okay, some good threats here from Romeo. Okay, so if we look at that first one in red there, okay, he's saying, fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. This is a direct contrast to what he was saying before about how he was saying that he was effeminate and that it softened Valor's steel. Said he didn't want to fight because he didn't want to affect his relationship with Juliet. But now, instead of using logic and sense and saying, I'm not going to fight because the prince has put in the law, we'll all get into trouble, he's now saying, I'm ignoring all of that and I'm going to let this fire within me, this anger, this fire-eyed fury, this sort of devil, lead my actions now. It's going to be my conduct. It's going to lead me forward. So I'm going to listen to my anger rather than my sensible head. Okay, so it's a complete flip to how he was before. Okay, the rage and fury is going to lead him to whatever happens next. And as we know, he's angry at Tybalt because he said, take the villain back that you called me. I'm not a villain, you're the villain. And he says, Mercutio's soul is a little way above our head, so it's just on its way to heaven. And I think one of us needs to keep him company. So either you or I or both of us are going to go with him. Okay, so that's basically saying to Tybalt, either you're going to die or I'm going to die, or we're both going to die, but neither of us is getting out of this. One of us is going to die. Okay, so that's what he's doing. He's threatening Tybalt there, okay? And Tybalt says, thou wretched boy that didst consort with him here shall with him hence. This shall determine that, Romeo says. Okay, so look at Tybalt's use of language. Wretched boy. He's patronising Romeo. Boy. It's an insult. He's an adult, okay? So he's deliberately pushing him and winding him up. And he's saying, well, you're the one that consorted with him here. You're the one who's friends with him on Earth. You hung around with Mercutio, so you might as well go with him because that makes more sense. It's basically what Tybalt's saying. And Romeo's saying this fight will determine that, okay? So they're going to fight now. The stage director says. They fight. Tybalt falls and dies. Over very quickly, very brief, very quick, and sort of, well, I was going to say painless, but it probably was quite painful. So Romeo kills Tybalt at this stage, okay? Benvolio then, in a panic, says, Romeo, away, be gone. The citizens are up and Tybalt slain. Stand not amazed. The prince will doom thee death. If thou art taken, hence be gone, away. So he's saying, Romeo, you need to get out of here before anybody catches you because you're going to be in trouble. You've broken the prince's law and you will be doomed to death for that, okay? And then the final line we're going to look at in this session is Romeo says, oh, I am fortune's fool. Okay, so this is another really great quote that links to the theme of fate that we learned from the start. So I've just pulled across this slide from a different PowerPoint. And it says, Tybalt's death brings Romeo a moment of clarity. He realises that he's the helpless victim of fate. Oh, I am fortune's fool. He is struck by a sense of anger, injustice and futility of being unlucky and cursed by bad fortune. Okay, so he believes that fate has decided this. He was always going to be drawn into killing Tybalt. It's not his fault. It's sort of it was written in the stars. It was always going to be his destiny. Contrast this with Mercutio's response to his own fate. He blames the people of the houses of Montague and Capulet and gives no blame to any larger force. Okay, plague on both your houses. So he's blaming them. The speed with which Mercutio and Tybalt's death occur, together with Romeo's marriage and subsequent banishment, all contribute to a sense of inevitability. That a chain of events has been set in motion over which the protagonists have no control. Okay, so it's this idea that everything's moving forward and it's all been laid out for them and it's their destiny. These things are all going to happen. Mercutio's dying curse upon the houses resonates as the voice of fate itself. So that plague upon both your houses, he is laying out their future destiny, perhaps it could be argued, okay? So we get the sense here that Romeo feels a complete victim to fortune and that he calls himself a fool, an idiot, because he's fallen into the trap of killing Tybalt and he should have refrained from fighting. So just round this one off then, just a few little tasks for you here, one than some of the others perhaps, but put out 3 of the key quotes from this video, okay, that I've gone into detail on. So core, what I want you to do is write down these 3 quotes and annotate around them. Go back through the video, put all the detail down, maybe look them up, see if you can find any further information about them, but they're 3 really important quotes that are really useful for you, okay? So if you haven't already done that, that is your challenge to make sure you add some detail to that. The challenge question, I want you to focus on that pink and that red quote there. I want you to look at and try and analyse how does Mercutio's death transform Romeo's character. If you want to be extra great, you could go back further in the play and see if you can find some moments to support when Elsie doesn't fight or how Elsie's quite soft and effeminate, okay? And then the super challenge, look at all 3 of these quotes and the bits, it's up to you link in as you can, but I want you to think about how does this scene link to the idea of conflict and fate, the themes of conflict and fate, which are 2 important ones that run throughout Romeo and Juliet. So how are they used at this moment? Good luck, as always. Ask any questions if you're stuck, and send me over any of your responses when you have done them. Thank you very much. Missing teaching you all, but hope to see you soon.